I'm sitting here in a prayer chapel in Sedona at 4:17 a.m. on October 6th, hands still trembling, staring at a journal where I've written down 5 specific events that Jesus just showed me are unfolding right now in October 2025. I've never been one to claim I see things others don't, honestly. It's always made me uncomfortable. But what he revealed to me tonight wasn't about the future. It was about now, about what's happening this very month while most believers are completely unaware. And the part that's making my chest tight right now, these events are already in motion. The shaking has already begun. And most of the church is asleep. And the event that Jesus said is shaking the American church more than anything since 9/11, the one that's separating those who truly know him from those who just know about him. It's happening right now, this week. And most pastors aren't talking about it because they don't recognize what they're seeing. But before I begin my story, let me know in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is. I just want to know I'm not alone in this. And if you feel moved by what you hear, consider subscribing. It helps give me the strength to speak my truth. Now let's get into my story. I'm in Sedona for a few days of solitude and prayer. I needed to get away from LA, from the noise, from the constant demands. I've been feeling this weight lately, like something significant is happening and I need to understand what it is. So, I booked this little retreat center with a 24-hour prayer chapel, and I've been spending most of my time there. Last night, well, technically, early this morning, I was the only one in the chapel. It's a simple space, stone walls, wooden pews, a cross on the wall, candles flickering. I'd been praying for maybe 2 hours, mostly just sitting in silence, when I felt this shift in the atmosphere. You know that feeling when you're alone, but suddenly you're not? When the air gets heavier, and you just know that God is present in a tangible way. I opened my eyes, and the candles seemed brighter, the silence seemed louder, and I heard his voice, not audible, but clearer than if he'd been sitting next to me speaking out loud. "Jonathan," he said, "I'm going to show you 5 events that are happening right now in October 2025. Not future events, not possibilities, events that are unfolding as we speak. Events that are changing the landscape of faith in America and around the world. And I'm showing you now so you can see what most are missing and so you can help others see it too." My heart started racing. "Lord, what do you mean? What's happening right now that I'm not seeing?" "Most of my people are looking at the surface," he replied, and there was both gentleness and urgency in his voice. "They see the news, they see the chaos, they see the confusion, but they don't see what's really happening underneath. They don't see the spiritual reality behind the natural events, and because they don't see it, they're not responding correctly. They're reacting in fear instead of responding in faith." I grabbed my journal and a pen. My hands were shaking. "Show me, Lord, please. I want to see what you're seeing." "Look," he said, and suddenly I wasn't just in the chapel anymore. I could still see the candles, still feel the wooden pew beneath me, but I was also seeing something else, a vision. Multiple visions, actually, like watching 5 different screens at once, each showing a different scene, a different event, all happening simultaneously right now in October 2025. "The first event," Jesus said, and I felt the weight of it immediately, "is a financial tremor that began on October 7th today and is rippling through the American economy right now. I saw stock markets opening this morning. I saw the numbers. I saw something that had just happened. A major financial institution announcing unexpected losses. Not a collapse, not yet, but a tremor, a crack in the foundation. And I saw financial experts scrambling, trying to explain it, trying to calm fears, but underneath their confident words there was panic. "This is not the earthquake," Jesus said. "This is the warning tremor. The earthquake is coming. But this tremor happening right now today is my warning. It's my way of saying, get your security off of money and onto me. Because the systems you've trusted are more fragile than you realize." I watched as people checked their portfolios this morning. Some saw red numbers and felt their stomachs drop. Others saw the news and felt anxiety creep in. But most just went about their day, assuming it would blow over, assuming the experts would fix it, assuming their security was still secure. But it's not, Jesus said. And this month, October 2025, is when that reality is beginning to be exposed. Not all at once, but gradually, like a crack spreading across a windshield. And by the end of this month, many who thought they were financially secure will realize they're not. He showed me two families. Both woke up this morning to the same financial news, but their responses were completely different. The first family, their entire identity was wrapped up in their financial status. When the husband checked his retirement account this morning and saw it had dropped, he felt physically sick. His wife noticed his face and asked what was wrong. "We might have lost 20%, he said, and the rest of their day was consumed with anxiety, with checking numbers, with trying to figure out how to protect what they had left. The second family, they saw the same news. They felt the same initial concern. But then they prayed together, "Lord, our security is in you, not in our bank account. Whatever happens, we trust you." And they went about their day with peace, not because they didn't care about money, but because their foundation was solid. This is what's happening right now, Jesus said. This tremor is revealing where people have really placed their trust, and for many it's revealing that their trust has been in money, not in me. This month is exposing that. The second event, Jesus continued and the scene shifted, is a spiritual stirring that's happening on college campuses across America right now. I saw multiple campuses, not just one, and I saw something that the news wasn't covering, that social media wasn't capturing. I saw small groups of students gathering, not for parties, not for protests, for prayer. This started last week, Jesus said, and it's growing. Right now as we speak, there are prayer meetings happening in dorm rooms, in libraries, in empty classrooms. Students who are hungry for something real. Students who are tired of the emptiness they've been sold. Students who are encountering me in powerful ways. I watched as a group of students at a university in the Midwest gathered in a dorm room at 11 p.m. last night. They'd been meeting every night for the past week, just praying, worshiping, reading scripture. And last night something broke open. One student started weeping and couldn't stop. "I feel him," she kept saying. "I feel Jesus. He's here. He's really here." And it spread. Other students started experiencing the same thing. The presence of God became so tangible that students from other rooms started coming to see what was happening. By 2 a.m., there were 30 students crammed into that dorm room, many of them encountering Jesus for the first time. This is happening right now, Jesus said, not just at that campus, at dozens of campuses, and it's going to accelerate throughout October. By the end of this month, this movement will be undeniable. But right now, it's still underground, still hidden from the mainstream, still dismissed by those who aren't paying attention. He showed me a youth pastor who heard about what was happening at a local university. Instead of celebrating, he was skeptical. "It's probably just emotion," he told his team. "These things never last. Let's not get caught up in hype." And Jesus' grief was palpable. "This is what breaks my heart," he said. "I'm moving powerfully among the next generation right now, this very month. But many of my leaders are too cynical to recognize it, too controlled to embrace it, too afraid of mess to welcome what I'm doing." The third event, Jesus said, and his tone became more somber, is a pressure that's intensifying on believers in America right now. I saw something that had happened just yesterday, October 5th. A Christian business owner who made a decision based on their faith. A decision that 5 years ago would have been quietly accepted. But yesterday, it sparked outrage. Social media erupted, news outlets picked it up, and within hours this person was facing consequences they never expected. This is not an isolated incident, Jesus said. This is part of a pattern that's accelerating right now in October 2025. The cultural pressure on believers is increasing. The cost of following me is going up. And this month is when many believers are discovering that their faith is going to cost them more than they thought. I watched as this business owner's story spread. Some Christians rallied to support them, but other believers distanced themselves. "I don't want to be associated with that," one Christian said to another. "It's too controversial. It's going to hurt my reputation." And Jesus showed me what was really happening. This month is revealing who will stand with me when it costs something and who will only stand with me when it's convenient. The pressure is increasing right now, and it's separating the wheat from the chaff. He showed me a church that had a meeting this past week, October 2nd. The leadership was discussing whether to take a public stand on a controversial issue. Half the room said, "We need to speak truth regardless of the cost." The other half said, We need to be wise. We can't afford to alienate people. Let's stay neutral. They voted. Neutrality won. And Jesus wept. Neutrality is not an option, he said. Not anymore. Not in October 2025. The pressure is forcing everyone to choose. And those who try to stay neutral are actually choosing the side of compromise. They just don't realize it yet. The fourth event, Jesus said, and I felt a chill run down my spine, is a tragedy that happened 3 days ago, October 3rd, that most people have already forgotten, but that I'm using as a catalyst. I saw news footage from October 3rd, a natural disaster in a mid-sized American city, not catastrophic enough to dominate the news cycle for more than a day or two, but devastating enough to destroy lives, to displace families, to create immediate and desperate need. The news covered it for 24 hours, Jesus said, and then moved on. But the need didn't move on. The suffering didn't move on. And right now, this very week, I'm watching to see how my church responds. He showed me 2 churches in that affected city. Both had been damaged by the disaster. Both had members who lost homes. But their responses were completely different. The first church immediately turned inward. We need to take care of our own first, the pastor said. They focused all their energy and resources on helping their members, which wasn't wrong. But they stopped there. They didn't reach out to their community. They didn't open their doors to those who weren't part of their congregation. They circled the wagons. The second church also took care of their members. But they didn't stop there. They opened their building to anyone who needed shelter. They organized relief efforts for the whole community, not just their congregation. They became a hub of hope, and people who had never stepped foot in a church before were encountering the love of Jesus through their actions. This is happening right now, Jesus said, this week, and the watching world is seeing 2 different versions of my church, one that loves only its own, and one that loves like I love, and they're drawing conclusions about me based on what they see. The fifth event, Jesus said, and his voice carried both warning and hope, is a moment of decision that's happening right now for every believer, every church, every ministry, a crossroads. And the choices being made this week, this month, will determine the trajectory for years to come. I saw something happening in real time. Across America, believers were facing decisions. Not big, dramatic decisions, small ones, daily ones, but decisions that revealed what they really believed and who they really served. A pastor preparing his sermon for this coming Sunday, he felt prompted to preach on a difficult topic, a costly topic, but he was afraid of losing people, afraid of controversy. And I watched him this morning, October 6th, as he sat at his desk and made a choice. He changed the sermon, chose something safer, something that wouldn't ruffle feathers. A college student sitting in class yesterday, October 5th, when the professor said something that directly contradicted Scripture, she felt the Holy Spirit prompt her to speak up, but she was afraid of looking foolish, afraid of being labeled, and I watched her make a choice. She stayed silent. A businessman in a meeting on October 4th, he had an opportunity to be honest about his faith, to let his light shine, but he was afraid of being seen as unprofessional, afraid of limiting his opportunities, and I watched him make a choice. He hid his faith. These moments are happening everywhere, right now, this very week, Jesus said. And each choice, each small decision to either stand firm or to compromise is setting a trajectory, because small compromises lead to bigger compromises, and small acts of courage lead to bigger acts of courage. He showed me what would happen by the end of October if these patterns continued. Some believers, some churches would look back and realize they'd been slowly compromising all month. Small choices that seemed insignificant at the time, but that added up to a significant drift away from faithfulness. But others would look back and see a pattern of courage. Small stands that seemed insignificant at the time, but that added up to a significant strengthening of their faith and their witness. October 2025, Jesus said, is a month of small choices that will have large consequences. And most people don't realize it. They think these are just normal days, just normal decisions. But they're not. This is a pivotal month, and the choices being made right now are shaping what comes next. The chapel came back into full focus. The candles had burned lower. The sky outside the window was starting to lighten. It was almost 6 a.m. now, and I was sitting there with my journal full of notes, my heart pounding, my mind racing. Lord, I said, this is happening right now, today, this week. What do I do? What do I tell people? Tell them to wake up? He said simply. Tell them to see what's really happening. Tell them that October 2025 is not just another month. It's a month of exposure, of testing, of decision. And tell them that how they respond right now, today, this week, will determine whether they're ready for what comes next. Tell them to wake up, he said simply. Tell them to see what's really happening. Tell them that October 2025 is not just another month. It's a month of exposure, of testing, of decision. And tell them that how they respond right now, today, this week, will determine whether they're ready for what comes next. I sat there in the chapel, the morning light now streaming through the windows, and I felt this urgency building in my chest. Lord, help me understand. Help me see what most people are missing. Because if this is really happening right now, I need to be able to explain it clearly. Then watch more closely, he said. I'm going to show you what's happening beneath the surface, what the news isn't reporting, what social media isn't capturing, what most believers are completely missing because they're distracted by the noise. The vision intensified, and what I saw made everything click into place. The financial tremor that started yesterday, October 7th, Jesus said, most people think it's just market volatility, just normal fluctuations. But look deeper. I saw behind the scenes of major financial institutions, meetings happening right now this very morning where executives are far more worried than they're letting on publicly. I saw emails being sent, phone calls being made, emergency protocols being quietly activated. This wasn't just a bad day in the market, this was the beginning of something larger. By October 15th, Jesus showed me, the cracks will be more visible. By October 22nd, the denial will be harder to maintain. And by October 31st, many people will be facing a financial reality they never prepared for. But then he showed me something that broke my heart. Churches that had spent years teaching prosperity gospel, teaching that faith equals financial blessing, teaching that God wants everyone wealthy, these churches were about to face a crisis. Because their people had built their faith on financial success, and when that success started crumbling, their faith would crumble with it. I saw a megachurch one I recognized where the pastor had preached for years that poverty was a curse and wealth was a blessing. This week, as the financial tremor hit, dozens of his members were panicking. Their portfolios were down, their businesses were struggling, and their faith was shaking because it had been built on sand. This is what the financial tremor is exposing, Jesus said. Not just financial fragility, but spiritual fragility. It's revealing who built their faith on me and who built their faith on money. And October 2025 is the month when that difference becomes impossible to hide. He showed me a different church, smaller, less flashy. But the pastor had been teaching for years about storing up treasure in heaven, about holding money loosely, about finding security in God alone. When the financial tremor hit, his people were concerned. Yes, but they weren't panicking, they weren't falling apart, because their foundation was solid. Tell my people, Jesus said, that what's happening right now financially is not punishment, it's mercy. It's my way of shaking what can be shaken so that what cannot be shaken will remain. And those who respond correctly to this tremor, who use it as an opportunity to transfer their trust from money to me, they'll be ready for what comes next. Now look at the spiritual stirring on campuses, Jesus said, and the scene shifted. I saw what was happening right now this very week at universities across America, and it was more widespread than I'd realized. Not just a few campuses, dozens, maybe hundreds. Small groups of students gathering, praying, encountering God in powerful ways. But then Jesus showed me something that made me angry and sad at the same time. He showed me how the religious establishment was responding. I saw a denominational leader who received a report yesterday, October 6th, about what was happening at a university in his region. Students were gathering for spontaneous worship, some were speaking in tongues, some were experiencing physical manifestations of the Holy Spirit. Lives were being radically changed. And instead of celebrating, this leader was concerned. We need to send someone to evaluate this, he told his team. We need to make sure it's theologically sound. We need to make sure it's not getting out of control. Out of control, Jesus repeated, and I could hear the frustration in his voice. They're worried about it getting out of control, but I am in control. And what they're really worried about is that it's out of their control. They want to manage it, organize it, make it fit their structures. And in doing so, they're going to quench what I'm doing. He showed me what would happen if this pattern continued. The denominational leader would send someone to oversee the movement. That person would start implementing rules, structures, schedules. The spontaneity would be replaced with programs. The freedom would be replaced with control. And within weeks, the fire would be dampened. But watch what happens if they leave it alone, Jesus said. He showed me an alternative timeline. The students continued to gather. The movement continued to grow. It got messy. It got emotional. It didn't fit neat theological boxes, but it was real. And by the end of October, thousands of students across America would be on fire for Jesus. Not because of programs or strategies, but because of genuine encounters with the living God. This is happening right now, Jesus said, and the choice is being made right now this week by leaders across America. Will they support what I'm doing, or will they suppress it? Will they fan the flame, or will they try to contain it? He showed me a youth pastor in Colorado who heard about the stirring at a local university. Instead of being skeptical, he was excited. He reached out to the student leaders. "How can we support you?" he asked. "What do you need?" He didn't try to take over. He didn't try to control. He just served, and the movement flourished. "This is what I'm looking for," Jesus said. "Leaders who will support what I'm doing instead of trying to manage it. Leaders who will serve the next generation instead of trying to control them. Now look at the pressure that's intensifying," Jesus said, and his tone became more serious. I saw what had happened over the past few days, October 3rd through 6th, and what was continuing to unfold right now. Multiple incidents across America where believers were facing consequences for their faith. Not dramatic persecution, not violence, but pressure, social pressure, professional pressure, cultural pressure. A teacher in Oregon who mentioned her faith in a casual conversation with a colleague on October 4th. By October 5th, she was called into HR. "We've received a complaint that you were proselytizing. We need to remind you that this is a secular workplace." She wasn't proselytizing. She'd simply answered a question, honestly. But the message was clear. Keep your faith private. A doctor in Texas who, on October 5th, declined to perform a procedure that violated his conscience. By October 6th, yesterday, he was facing a formal complaint. His medical license could be at risk. His reputation was being questioned, all because he chose to follow his convictions. A college student in Massachusetts who, on October 3rd, posted a Bible verse on social media. By October 4th, she was being called hateful, bigoted, intolerant. By October 5th, she was being ostracized by her friend group. By October 6th, yesterday, she was questioning whether her faith was worth the cost. "This is the pressure I'm talking about," Jesus said, "and it's intensifying right now, this very week, not in dramatic ways that make headlines, but in quiet ways that test hearts. And the question is, will my people stand firm, or will they cave?" He showed me what was happening in real time. Believers across America facing these small tests. And their responses were revealing everything. Some were standing firm, losing friends but keeping their faith, facing consequences but maintaining their convictions. And in their courage they were becoming lights in the darkness. But others were compromising, softening their stance to avoid conflict, hiding their faith to maintain their comfort. And with each small compromise they were drifting further from me. October 2025, Jesus said, is the month when the pressure reaches a tipping point, when it becomes clear that following me in America is going to cost something. And the choices being made right now, today, this week, are determining who will pay that cost and who will choose comfort instead. He showed me a church board meeting that happened last night, October 6th. They were discussing whether to make a public statement on a controversial issue. The pressure was intense. Half the board wanted to speak truth. The other half wanted to stay silent to avoid backlash. They debated for 2 hours, and finally they voted. Silence won. "We'll just focus on the gospel," they said. "We don't need to get involved in cultural issues." But Jesus showed me what they didn't understand. Silence is a choice, he said. Neutrality is a position. And in October 2025, Choosing to stay silent is choosing to compromise, because the pressure is forcing everyone to take a side, and those who try to avoid taking a side are actually taking the side of the culture by default. Now look at the tragedy from October 3rd, Jesus said. I saw the aftermath of the natural disaster. It was now October 7th today. 4 days later, the news had moved on, but the need hadn't. Families were still displaced, homes were still destroyed, people were still suffering. And I saw how different churches were responding right now, this very week. One church had a meeting yesterday, October 6th, to discuss their response. We've already done a lot, one elder said. We took up an offering, we sent some supplies. I think we've done our part. And they moved on to other business. Another church had a meeting this morning, October 7th, today. The need is still there, the pastor said. The cameras are gone, but the suffering isn't. What more can we do? And they committed to ongoing support, weekly supply runs, volunteers every weekend, opening their building for as long as needed. This is what's happening right now, Jesus said. The tragedy exposed the need, but the response is revealing the heart. Some churches are treating this like a one-time event. Check the box, move on. But others are treating this like an opportunity to demonstrate my love in sustained, practical ways. He showed me a family from the second church. They'd volunteered this past weekend, October 4th and 5th. They'd helped clean out a flooded home, served meals, prayed with people who'd lost everything. And yesterday, October 6th, the father told his kids, we're going back next weekend, and the weekend after that, for as long as they need us. His teenage daughter asked, why? Nobody else is still talking about it. And the father said, because Jesus would still be there. So we're going to be there too. This is what I'm looking for, Jesus said. Not one-time charity, but sustained love. Not helping when it's convenient or when cameras are watching, but helping because that's what love does. Finally, look at the moment of decision, Jesus said. Look at what's happening right now in the hearts of believers across America. I saw thousands of small moments happening simultaneously, right now, today, this week. A woman sitting at her desk this morning, October 7th, feeling prompted to reach out to a coworker who's struggling. She picked up her phone, started to type a message, then stopped. What if it's weird? What if she doesn't want to hear from me? She deleted the message. The moment passed. A man in a business meeting happening right now as I'm sitting here in this chapel feeling prompted to speak up about an unethical practice. He opened his mouth, then closed it. It's not worth the fight, he told himself. The moment passed. A teenager in a classroom this morning feeling prompted to defend another student who was being mocked. She almost said something, then didn't. I don't want to make myself a target, she thought. The moment passed. These moments are happening everywhere, right now, constantly, Jesus said. And each one is a test. Each one is an opportunity to either step forward in faith or step back in fear. And the pattern that's being established right now in October 2025 will determine the trajectory for months and years to come. He showed me two believers. Both faced similar moments of decision this week. Small moments, seemingly insignificant. The first believer chose comfort every time, stayed silent when prompted to speak, held back when prompted to give, played it safe when prompted to risk. And by October 7th today, a pattern was established. A pattern of compromise, a pattern of fear, a pattern of choosing self-preservation over obedience. The second believer chose courage every time, spoke when prompted even though it was awkward, gave when prompted even though it was costly, risked when prompted even though it was scary. And by October 7th today, a different pattern was established. A pattern of faithfulness, a pattern of trust, a pattern of choosing obedience over comfort. By October 31st, Jesus showed me, these two believers will be in completely different places spiritually, not because of one big decision, but because of dozens of small decisions made throughout the month. And the same is true for churches, for ministries, for families. October 2025 is a month of small choices that are creating large trajectories. The chapel was fully bright now. It was almost 7 a.m. I could hear other people arriving at the retreat center. Life was waking up. But I felt like I'd been awake for days, seeing things I couldn't unsee. Lord, I said, what do I tell people? How do I help them see what you're showing me? Tell them to pay attention, he said. Tell them that October 2025 is not just another month. Tell them that what's happening right now, the financial tremor, the spiritual stirring, the intensifying pressure, the revealing tragedy, the moment of decision, these are not random events. They're connected, they're purposeful, they're my way of preparing my people for what comes next. And tell them, he continued, that how they respond right now, today, this week, this month, will determine whether they're ready or not, whether they're awake or asleep, whether they're faithful or compromised. And tell them, he continued, that how they respond right now, today, this week, this month will determine whether they're ready or not, whether they're awake or asleep, whether they're faithful or compromised. I sat there in the chapel, the morning fully arrived now, and I felt this overwhelming sense of urgency mixed with hope. Lord, give me something practical, something people can actually do today. Because if all of this is happening right now, we can't wait. We need to respond now. Then write this down, he said, because I'm going to give you 5 specific responses, one for each event. Things that any believer can do today, this week, this month, to align themselves with what I'm doing, instead of being swept away by what the enemy is doing. I flipped to a fresh page in my journal, pen ready. First, Jesus said, in response to the financial tremor, today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today I want every believer to do a trust audit. What's a trust audit? I asked. Sit down with your bank statements, your investment accounts, your financial plans, he explained, and ask yourself one question. If I lost half of this tomorrow, would my peace be shaken? If the answer is yes, then your trust is in money, not in me, and you need to transfer that trust before the earthquake comes. He showed me what this looked like practically. A couple sitting at their kitchen table this evening, October 7th, tonight. They pulled up their accounts on their laptop, looked at the numbers, and the husband said, if we lost half of this, I'd be devastated. That means my security is in this, not in God. So what do we do? His wife asked. We start giving more, he said, not because we have to, but because it will train our hearts to hold money loosely, and we start praying differently. Not God, protect our money, but God, you are our security. Money is just a tool. This is the trust audit, Jesus said, and it needs to happen this week, because the financial pressure is going to increase throughout October. And those who wait until the pressure is intense will find it much harder to transfer their trust. But those who do it now, while there's still time, while it's still a choice, they'll be ready. He gave me specific steps to write down. Look at your finances today. Ask, where is my security really placed? Identify one area where you're holding too tightly. Maybe it's your retirement account. Maybe it's your emergency fund. Maybe it's your income level. Do something this week that loosens your grip. Give more than is comfortable. Downsize something you don't need. Make a financial decision that requires you to trust God. Change your prayers. Stop praying for financial security. Start praying for faith to trust God regardless of your financial situation. Those who do this, Jesus said, will stand firm when the earthquake comes. Those who don't will fall apart. Second, Jesus continued, in response to the spiritual stirring, I want every believer, especially leaders, to make a commitment right now to support what I'm doing among the next generation instead of trying to control it. How do they do that? I asked. By getting out of the way, he said simply. By serving instead of managing. By encouraging instead of critiquing. By praying for the movement instead of trying to organize it. He showed me what this looked like. A pastor who heard about the stirring at a local university. Instead of his first instinct being to evaluate it theologically or to try to bring it under his church's umbrella, his first instinct was to ask, how can I serve these students? He reached out to the student leaders, offered his church building if they needed a larger space, offered to provide meals, offered to pray for them. But he didn't try to take over. He didn't try to put his name on it. He just served. This is what I'm looking for, Jesus said. Leaders who will support what I'm doing instead of trying to control it. And this needs to happen now this week because the stirring is accelerating. And the response of leaders right now will determine whether this movement flourishes or gets quenched. He gave me specific steps. If you're a leader, ask yourself, am I more concerned with control or with what God is doing? Be honest. Reach out to young believers this week. Ask them what they're seeing, what they're experiencing. Listen without critiquing. If you hear about a move of God among young people, your first response should be support, not suspicion. Offer resources, offer prayer, offer encouragement. Let go of the need to have your name attached to it. Some of the most powerful moves of God happen when leaders are willing to serve in the background. Those who do this, Jesus said, will be part of the greatest awakening this generation has ever seen. Those who don't will miss it entirely. Third, Jesus said, in response to the intensifying pressure, I want every believer to make a decision right now about what they will not compromise on, no matter the cost. That sounds intense, I said. It is intense, he replied, because the pressure is intense, and it's only going to increase. And those who haven't decided in advance what they'll stand for will compromise in the moment. But those who decide now, today, this week, will have the strength to stand when the pressure comes. He showed me a family sitting together this week, maybe tonight, October 7th. The parents gathered their teenage kids and said, "We need to talk about something important. The world is changing. Following Jesus is going to cost us more than it used to. So we need to decide as a family, what are we willing to lose for Jesus? Our reputation? Our comfort? Our opportunities? Our friendships?" It was a hard conversation. The kids were scared, but by the end they'd made a decision together. We're going to follow Jesus no matter what, even if it costs us everything. This is what needs to happen right now, Jesus said. Families need to have this conversation. Churches need to have this conversation. Individuals need to have this conversation with themselves, because the pressure is here. It's not coming, it's here. And those who haven't decided what they'll stand for will fall when the pressure increases. He gave me specific steps. Sit down this week alone or with your family and make a list. What am I willing to lose for Jesus? Be specific. Your job, your friends, your social standing. Identify the areas where you're most tempted to compromise. Is it at work, at school, on social media, in your family? Make a decision now about how you'll respond when the pressure comes to those areas. Don't wait until you're in the moment. Find one or two people who will hold you accountable. Tell them, if you see me compromising, call me out. Those who do this, Jesus said, will stand firm when others fall. Those who don't will look back with regret. Fourth, Jesus said, in response to the tragedy, I want every believer to commit to sustained love, not just one-time charity. What does that mean practically? I asked. It means showing up, he said, not just once, not just when it's convenient, but consistently, week after week, month after month, for as long as there's need. He showed me what this looked like, a church that made a commitment this week, October 7th. We're going to serve the community affected by the disaster every weekend for the next 3 months. We're going to organize teams. We're going to provide supplies. We're going to be present, not because cameras are watching, but because that's what love does. And I watched as this commitment transformed that church. It wasn't easy. It was costly. It required sacrifice, but it became the most powerful witness they'd ever had, because people saw that their love wasn't just words. It was action. Sustained action. This is what I'm calling my church to right now, Jesus said, not just to respond to crises with one-time offerings, but to commit to sustained love, to be present for the long haul, to demonstrate that my love doesn't fade when the cameras leave. He gave me specific steps. Identify a need in your community right now. Maybe it's related to the October 3rd disaster, maybe it's something else, but find a real need. Commit to meeting that need consistently for the next 3 months, not just once, every week. Involve your family or your small group. Make it a shared commitment. Don't publicize it. Don't post about it on social media. Just do it quietly, consistently, faithfully. Those who do this, Jesus said, will become the hands and feet of Jesus in their communities, and people will see me through them. Fifth, Jesus said, in response to the moment of decision, I want every believer to practice immediate obedience this week. What does that mean? I asked. It means when you feel me prompt you to do something, anything, you do it immediately, he said, within 5 seconds, before your brain can talk you out of it, before fear can paralyze you, before excuses can form. You feel the prompt, you move. He showed me what this looked like. A woman sitting in a coffee shop this morning, October 7th, today. She saw someone sitting alone, looking sad, and she felt a prompt. Go talk to her. In the past, she would have hesitated, talked herself out of it. She probably wants to be alone. It would be weird. I don't know what to say. But this time she'd made a commitment to immediate obedience. So within 5 seconds of feeling the prompt, she stood up, walked over, and said, "Hi, I know this might seem random, but I felt like I should come say hello. Are you okay?" The woman started crying. "I was just praying for someone to talk to," she said. "I'm going through the hardest time of my life and I feel so alone." They talked for an hour. The first woman prayed for her, gave her her number, and a divine appointment happened, all because of 5-second obedience. "This is what I want from my people right now," Jesus said. "Not perfect obedience, but immediate obedience." Because October 2025 is full of divine appointments, full of moments where I'm prompting my people to act. But most of them are missing those moments because they're hesitating, they're overthinking, they're letting fear win. He gave me specific steps. Make a commitment today. When I feel God prompt me, I will obey within 5 seconds. Practice it this week. Every time you feel a prompt to pray for someone, to encourage someone, to give something, to say something, count to 5 and move. Keep a journal of what happens. Write down the prompts you obeyed and what resulted. You'll be amazed. At the end of each day, ask yourself, how many prompts did I obey today? How many did I ignore? Be honest. Those who practice this, Jesus said, will see miracles. They'll see divine appointments. They'll see me move in powerful ways. Because I'm always speaking, always prompting, always inviting my people to partner with what I'm doing. But most are too slow to respond. And by the time they decide to obey, the moment has passed. The chapel was busy now. Other people had come in to pray. I could hear quiet worship music playing. Life was happening around me, but I felt like I'd been in a different realm for the past few hours. "Lord," I said, "this is a lot. 5 responses, 5 commitments. How do people actually do all of this?" "One step at a time," he said. "Start with one. Maybe it's the trust audit. Maybe it's the commitment to immediate obedience. Pick one and start today. Then add another tomorrow. Then another the next day. By the end of this week, you'll have all 5 in motion. And by the end of October, your life will look completely different." He paused, then added, "And Jonathan, tell them this. October 2025 is not a month to coast through. It's not a month to be distracted or complacent. It's a month of decision, a month of testing, a month of preparation. What happens this month will determine what happens in the months and years to come." "What comes after October?" I asked. "That depends on how my people respond in October," he said. "If they wake up, if they respond correctly to what I'm showing them, if they align themselves with what I'm doing, then what comes next will be glorious. A church that's purified, strengthened, ready. But if they stay asleep, if they miss what I'm doing, if they choose comfort over courage, then what comes next will be devastating. A church that's compromised, weakened, unprepared. The choice is being made right now," he continued. "Today, this week, this month. And I'm inviting every believer to choose wisely." I closed my journal, stood up, stretched. My body was stiff from sitting so long, but my spirit felt alive, alert, ready. I walked out of the chapel into the bright Arizona morning. The red rocks of Sedona glowed in the sunlight, and I pulled out my phone. It was 7:43 a.m., October 7th, 2025. I opened my notes app and started typing. Not a social media post. A personal commitment. 5 things I was going to do this week. Trust audit tonight. Look at my finances and transfer my security from money to God. Reach out to young believers I know. Ask what they're experiencing. Offer support. Write down what I will not compromise on, no matter the cost. Find a need in my community and commit to meeting it consistently. Practice 5-second obedience every time I feel a prompt. Simple, costly, real. So here's what I'm asking you, wherever you are right now. Don't just read this and move on. Don't just think that's interesting and forget about it. Because this isn't about the future. This is about right now. Today. This week. October 2025. Pick one of the 5 responses. Just one. And do it today. Not tomorrow. Today. Maybe it's the trust audit. Pull up your bank account tonight and ask yourself honestly, where is my security really placed? Maybe it's reaching out to a young believer. Send that text today. Make that call today. Maybe it's deciding what you won't compromise on. Have that conversation with your family tonight. Maybe it's committing to sustained love. Identify a need today and commit to meeting it consistently. Maybe it's practicing immediate obedience. The next time you feel a prompt today, count to 5 and move. Pick one. Start today. And then add another tomorrow. Because October 2025 is not just another month, it's a month of decision. And what you decide right now today, this week, will determine where you are when November comes. Drop your city in the comments and which of the 5 responses you're committing to today. I'll pray for you by name, and if this woke you up the way it woke me up, consider subscribing. It helps me keep sharing what I'm seeing. Even so, come, Lord Jesus. And until he does, let's be awake, let's be ready, let's be faithful. Right now, today, this week, October 2025 is here. The question is, are we?